Tom Shanahan from Spartan Mag. Something a little different for you guys. The new president has only been on campus 18 days, and he came from North Carolina. Have you guys met him yet? Any thoughts about his changing his allegiance to the Spartans?
I didn't know he did that. Not gonna lie. Did you?
I didn't know he was from North Carolina. I met him though.
Yeah,
I
met
talked
him.
to him.
Didn't know he was from there.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
I think he's just turned so Sparty since he's been here. So I never even knew that's where he came from.
He just said, "Go green." He was like, "Hello, nice to meet you." I said, "Hello, nice to meet you." He was talking though. He was talking to coach, so I didn't want to interrupt. You know what I mean?
To our right.
Aaron Beard with the AP. This is from Malik. You guys have seen, like, Edie, for example, as a talented big. So what is the matchup for going up against a guy like Baycott that's as experienced as he is for you guys going to be like, you think?
I mean, we've played some outstanding bigs over the years. Edie, obviously, a heck of a player. Baycott, obviously, brings a little bit different of a challenge. All-American. So, I mean, I think it gives us a little advantage playing Edie a couple times and being able to bump and bang with him. I think it'll help us for sure. But, I mean, Baycott's a different player, a little more agile, I'd say, a little more bump and bang. So I think it'll be interesting. It'll help us for sure, though, having that experience in the past.
Back left.
In terms of guard play, how important do you think that is in the NCAA tournament? And do you think your guys have an advantage due to your experience at guard against someone like a freshman like Cadeau?
Experience does help. You know, like, I played a lot of games in my career, so just being in different situations, knowing how to handle it. But guard play is definitely important. Just, you know, we're the ones controlling the game for the most part. You know, we have to handle the ball. So just making sure that we play well is really important.
Malik.
I mean, I'm not a guard, but I value these guys. So I think their experience helps along the way. I think as it comes to tournament time, there's more pressure, there's more just emotion, and there's a lot that comes into each and every game. And I think that experiencing and having experienced it and going further into the tournament, I think it'll become more and more important, and I think that helps a lot.
AJ.
Yeah, I think guard play definitely matters. Something that coach speaks on all the time, and something that we got to come to the game prepared and ready to play, and do a good job of taking their guards out their rhythm.
This is for AJ and Malik. I'm Mark Cannizzaro from the New York Post. With regard to Tyson, could you speak to kind of what he brings to the table, what he means to the team, and what you see his strengths are?
He can score that motherfucker. No, I'm playing. But, I mean, obviously we all know what Tyson does. He's super valuable to our team. I mean, we trust him with, like, pretty much everything for the most part. Like, he defends some of the best players. He takes some of the game-winning shots. I mean, you name it. I think he does pretty much everything that we could ask of someone to do. So I think that's what his value is.
Yeah, you know, his value is tremendous to our team. You know, he's not only just our leading scorer. He's one of the best two-way guys in the country. I think he takes pride in that, and sometimes he gets us in trouble because we get in trouble watching the show. Get caught up watching him, forgetting we're his teammates. So it's definitely fun playing with him, and he just means a lot to us on both sides of the ball.
Gwen Peace from the Daily Tar Heel. This one's for Tyson. I was talking with RJ yesterday, and he was telling me about how you guys used to be teammates and then played against each other in high school. Can you talk to me a little bit about your relationship with him and what it's going to feel like to face off against him tomorrow?
Yeah, I knew RJ for a really long time. You know, we've had some good games against each other. So just to be able to play at this level against each other, you know, there's going to be a lot of people watching, you know, our senior years. It's going to be big time. You know, hopefully we both could play well.
Other questions here in the room? Any questions on Zoom? Use the raise hand function. If you have a question on Zoom, we can get there. No other questions? Okay, guys. Okay. Let's let you off easy today.
Appreciate it.
Go get them.
Tom Shanahan, Spartan Mag. Your new president came from North Carolina. He's only been here 18 days. Are you getting a scouting report from him? And also your early impressions of him. I know you've met him.
Yeah, I was on the selection committee, and we absolutely love Kevin. He's only been there, as you say, not even 3 weeks. But I think he brings something that I really appreciate. Very outward-going guy, and there's always controversy, as we all know, and everybody was the boss of something. But for me and for us, and like I said, I was on the committee, the search committee, and I think we got a diamond. So I'm excited about that. How ironic that our women just played North Carolina and we play North Carolina tonight. But so that's got to be a little hard on him and his family. But you know what? Glad we got him, and we'll go from there.
Hey, Tom. Brendan Marks from The Athletic. Just two-parter. Number one, what's your relationship like with Hubert Davis? You guys close? And then secondly, do you see any similarities just in the early scout between the way that he coaches and maybe some of those old Roy teams?
Yeah, I just saw him in the hallway. We hugged and kissed and everything. It was great, man. But no, I've known Hubert for a long time, and I've, when he was doing TV, I got a chance to spend time with him then. And I think one of the great guys in our profession, he does it the right way. He's been brought up well. I mean, I'm a big Roy Williams fan, and Roy has, he's putting his own mark on it, like I had to do with Judd Heathcote, but what I will tell Hubert someday is, when you get one of those jobs from guys that have been in it a long time, you always kind of say to yourself, I'm going to change this a little bit, and I'm going to change that a little bit. And I remember telling my secretary, who had been with Judd for 20 years and me as my years got into it, I'd always say, Lori, now I know why Judd did this, and now I know, and I bet you Hubert does the same thing, because when you have the success Roy does, tweaking the offense or the defense or things like that is normal, and he should put his own stamp on it, but I'll bet you he'll run the program, very similar, because if it ain't broke, why fix it? And it ain't broke.
Hey, Tom, Gene Wong, Washington Post. Even though you guys are on the opposite, different parts of the bracket, I wanted to ask you about your relationship with Rick Barnes, how that's grown over the years as you've both been in this business for a long time, and how the Maui relief game came about and how you called him and arranged the whole deal.
Yeah, Rick's been a good friend too, and a guy that I've known for a long time since he was an assistant at Ohio State. But at the same time, Rick and I went to a thing called Hoops at the Troops. We went over to Kuwait and spent 7 days together with Gary Williams and a couple other guys, and that was one of the more eventful things. It was just strictly coaching and spending time with guys, and the flight was long, and so I got a chance to know Rick. Just talked to him this morning, in fact. But he's done an unbelievable job. I thought, how ironic, they're playing Texas, and he was there, and come to think of it, I thought he did a hell of a job there, and maybe was underappreciated a little bit, in my humble opinion. But he sure has taken things to Knoxville and done an unbelievable job. The Maui thing, him and I had been there almost the most, I think 4 times each. And when I suggested, hey, if we can get this done, would you have an interest? And him and I had played an exhibition game at their place last year, so he was coming anyway. And then he was 100% for it, and just a great guy, one of the guys that I greatly respect.
Sean was a Detroit Free Press. Tom, Doug's sons playing for them. Tyson Walker was just talking about R.J. Davis and their relationship. You mentioned your school president earlier. All these kind of connections, but just in general, what does this mean to you to go up against one of these kind of programs, get another shot?
Well, when you look at my record in the NCAA against them, it doesn't feel very good at all. But the opportunity to change that, and the opportunity to go against, people. I still talk to Roy quite a bit, and I've always had great respect for their program and the way they've done it. And I used to work Michael Jordan's fantasy camp, so it goes way, way back. And it means a lot to me. Number one, we're still playing. Number two, with an opportunity of a lifetime. That's what these are. These are memory-making moments. I watched the Oakland, Kentucky game last night, and I'm not going to sit here and act like, it's the same, because it's not the same. I think we've earned our stripes as a program too, but we've always said, since the first year we got to the Final Four, way, way back, and what I'd done with scheduling a lot of times, including the aircraft carrier when Roy and I played on that, to be the best, you got to beat the best. And I think they've earned the right to be a great program. Hubert's done a great job when you look at his years, and going to a Final Four his first year. So it's all good, The president, the women's team playing, the relationship with players, those are all good. But come 5:30, it's the Hatfields and the McCoys, and then at 7:30, it's back to hugging and kissing, I guess.
Left.
Hey, Cam Gaskins with WBTV here in Charlotte. You kind of alluded to not having the best track record against UNC in the tournament. I'm just curious what you remember specifically about that 2009 national championship, the last time you saw this team in the tournament.
I do remember that. We made a hell of a run, and we beat UConn. Now we had played North Carolina early in the year, and I think got beat by 25. And it just goes to show you how good a coach I am, because in that championship game, I was standing on the sidelines, and I think it was Ellington, came off a screen, and he rose up, and his shoes, now I'm not the biggest guy in America, but were by my eyes, and he shot one, and I had to watch that thing go all the way in. But because of good coaching, we only got beat by 20 in that game, so improved from the beginning of the year. So, yeah, I remember a lot of those games and a lot of the times. I do remember the time when we went down there. We were both ranked high and beat them in Chapel Hill. That was a thrill, but haven't slayed the dragon enough times, and so another opportunity. If you keep getting opportunities, that's the name of the game. Sooner or later, hopefully you win the battle.
I have a two-parter, but first off, just what did you think of Oakland in that game last night? And I know you're friends with Coach and stuff like that, and then also to see Rocket Watson, what he did, especially on that last play, dishing out to the corner for the game-winning three.
When you have games, and Campy and John are good friends too. We all played together in Greg's golf outing for cancer a couple years ago, and John came up and was there, which was really nice of him. I don't think he has to do that, and does it. And yet I'm watching, and I always pull for Rocket, talk to him, I always pull for him. We love him. And when he made that last pass, honest to God, my whole staff was just like fired up for him. And then, I'm pretty good friends with John too, because I am on a couple committees with him, and I've been in that shoes. Yeah, I have. I've been at 15-2 and lost, and I know how devastating that is to me. Now, if you're in the state of Kentucky, you can times that by 1,000. And so it was tough for him. So there was the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat, and I got to enjoy and feel bad for both sides. And yet, when I take it to Rocket, whether people believe this, sometimes people leave programs, and usually when they do at Michigan State, it's talked about, they don't just put their name in the portal. They usually come in and we talk. And Rock and I had a lot of talks, man. And that first year when he was at Mississippi State, you know, hard to believe because we could have played him. But talked to him a lot down there, and still talk to him at Oakland. He still calls. He's a beautiful kid, you know. I mean, it's been a tough life for him, but and Greg's done a great job, and he makes that play, and there were a bunch of Spartans pulling for him in that respect. Second part of your question.
Well, that was like a two-parter because I wanted to ask about Oakland and Rocket. But where'd you guys watch the game? Did you watch it together?
Well, we were watching film, and somebody came in on Carolina, and somebody came in and said this game's going down to the wire. So players were in their rooms, but we watched it in our film room, and just the NCAA tournament, boy, it's got some highs and lows, and that was a memory-making moment for one, and a tough time for the other. You have a third?
Yeah. I have a lot of questions
These are
today.
three-part questions now?
Well, this is changing gears
What the hell's
to.
going on?
I'll check the manual on
that. Are you running this thing or not?
I'm just taking charge. No, this is changing gears a little bit, but and I'm sorry if you were already asked this, but North Carolina and Michigan State obviously have the most Final Fours since 1999, I believe. Two-story programs just facing off in the second round. You haven't beat them yet in the tournament. I mean, what is?
Well, I was going to give you credit because you asked it a lot nicer than some of these other guys have asked it. You two-storied programs, been to the most Final Fours, and yes, we haven't beaten them in the NCAA tournament. But you know what? We're going to still show up. We're going to show up tomorrow, and we're going to see what we can do. You know, I think I don't look at us as a 9 seed, and some of that's my fault. And I do look at them as a 1 seed. And yet, I think this year of parity in college basketball and craziness, I bet you know, nobody feels any more comfortable than anybody else. You know, Campy says we can beat them. He said at the beginning of the week, you know. And usually he's full of you know what, but I guess in this case he believed what he was saying. And I don't know what the reasons are. I think the reasons are they've been very good teams. We've got beat by very good teams. And there's been some great games. The 05 Final Four, we were up at halftime and we just couldn't hang on. And there's been some blowouts like the 09 when we got beat by a lot in the championship game. But that team, as they warmed up, I thought it was the Celtics or the Pistons, you know, and that was during the Pistons championship runs.
We'll take a couple questions here. We'll come back to you.
Trayvon Miles, ABC 11 in Raleigh. Coach, apologize if you've been asked this already, but we just talked to Coach Wojcik and we talked to Paxton yesterday. Interested in your thoughts and what he's feeling right now going up against his son with a son on your team as well.
You know, it's funny because Paxton and my son grew up together. When Doug was with me the first time, they were both 4 or 5 years old. You know, we used to take them on recruiting trips, begging moms to let their son come to our place by using our kids as bait. And but you know, this is we played Brown last year where his son was, and that was an emotional time. How does it get any more emotional? I guess if you look at it on the good side, he's going to LA either way. You know, either with me or with Paxton. So I guess that's the positive side of it for him. But it's got to be tough. You know, it really does. I mean, loves his son and loves the program he works for. And he'll do his job. He's a military guy. He's going to do his job the best that he can. And emotions will flow as they flow. But we have no inward secrets. You know, Paxton didn't give us the scouting report or anything. And as far as seeing him play, you know, Doug's seen him play in person a couple times. You know, Carolina and Michigan State have been the same for 25 years as far as Hubert does a lot of the same stuff. Mine is the same. So there's no real secrets. It's the emotion that those guys got to go through. And but I try to look at it as what a privilege. What a privilege to have your son at a program like he's got him at, and what a privilege for him to be working at a program he's working at. And we're both playing for a lot, and that is a privilege.
Middle of the room.
Chris Solari, Detroit Free Press. I'm wondering about the differences. You kind of mentioned about that, but you haven't played them since Roy was there. I guess what are the differences between Hubert's program and Roy's? And secondly, the inside-out game that they have with Davis and Baycott, who does that maybe remind you of this year that you faced?
Well, I mean, in some ways, it was like Mississippi State, with Smith and Hubbard. I mean, I do think Davis is maybe the best guard, I really do, in the whole country. If you look at everything he does, offensively, defensively, he's got some toughness. He can pass it, takes care of the ball. I mean, he takes some tough shots, but not as crazy as shots. And I think Baycott is really improved as the years have gone on, and so they've got an inside-outside threat, and then they got other guys that can shoot the ball and can play. I mean, that's why they're who they are. That's why they're a #1 seed. But I do think we match up with them decently as far as size and that at most positions. And, I think Ingram and Hall will be a big matchup in this thing, believe it or not. So it's not always the ones you totally look at. It's kind of other guys that I think are difference makers, and I think that'll be a Hubert doesn't wear those Argyle golf sweaters that Roy wears, and I haven't seen him in the plaid jackets as much, but none of us are wearing that anymore because Sean doesn't want coaches wearing suits anymore. But other than that, I'm sure he puts his own mark on it. I mean, I did, but I'm sure that he does a lot of things. Like, his mentor was Roy. Mine was Judd. I mean, it's pretty cool. You look at paint down at Purdue with Gene, and there are some programs out there that have been kind of passed over to the next guy in line, and it is pretty cool, especially if you can keep going what was already really good. And I think Hubert's doing a great job of that, and I think it's pretty cool. I mean, I don't know what I'll do when my time is here, but I got a call from Royce. I'm coming to your game, and he was sitting right behind us. And turned around, looked at him, and I said, "Man, I appreciate you, because some people want to stay away, but he's a big part of them yet. I don't think he hovers over them in any way, but he supports them. And I thought one thing I always criticized Judd for is he left the day he took off to Spokane, and boy, those first couple of years, I could have used somebody to call once in a while or gone over and see. And I think Roy does that, and that's a pretty neat relationship.
A reminder, please wait on the microphone even for follow-ups. Next question, back right.
What's that? For the record, I think it's great we're all in hoodies. Even Joe here's in a hoodie these days.
I know one thing. I've never seen many media guys in tuxedos, I'll tell you that right now. Huh, you?
I'm staying out of it.
Hey, you look pretty good yourself.
It's in the manual here.
No, serious question, though. Last week you played well, especially in the second half against Minnesota. Really well against Purdue, just didn't make shots, and maybe your most complete effort yesterday. Just where do you think the psyche of your team is right now, and what do they think of themselves?
Well, as you know, all year long, I mean, I said I was disappointed. I thought we underachieved a little bit. I said we were in every game, but one or two. I mean, right down to the wire on a lot of them. And with a veteran coach and a veteran team, you should find a way to win those games. And I took that on myself a little bit. But it didn't mean I didn't think. I kept saying this team is good enough. This team is good enough. One game, 3-4 games like that. But we have played better basketball at the end of the year. We're starting to rebound the ball a little bit better. We'll have to do that because Ingram and Baycott are phenomenal rebounders. But we're going to have our hands full with that. But I do think we're in a lot better position now than we were a month ago. And yet it's not because there's any different players. It's some of the players are playing different. And we're making some shots, which they had done before. But I think, the biggest key in our program has been to defend, the rebound, and run. That's been the Montrose forever. And we are defending better, we're rebounding better, and then we're running. We were 18-0 against Purdue on fast break points, and stuff like that makes a difference in our program. Now they're a program that runs too. So maybe it'll be a track meet.
Rod Baxley, Fayetteville Observer. Guys, when you watch Michigan State on film, what stands out?
They're a physical team. They're good defensively. They've got a really good half-court defense. They like to push the pace in transition. We did some scouting personnel, obviously, last night. So, we're ready to go out and compete and play against a good team on Saturday.
Harrison?
Yeah, to add on to what he said, they're a physical team. They got a pretty good guard in Walker, who's been averaging about 20 points a game. He's tough, make shots off the dribble, make three-point shots. They got good big men, 4 big men that they rotate through, so they have a lot of depth and a lot of strength. And they play Big Ten basketball, which is more physical.
Front row.
Hi, for both of you guys. North Carolina has been an elite program forever. Michigan State more so only the last 25 years or so with Coach Izzo, but that encompasses your entire lifetime. I wonder how you guys think when you hear Michigan State compared to how maybe older fans think.
Yeah, it's kind of a surreal moment to think about, for the right to go to the Sweet 16, you got to face Tom Izzo and Michigan State. They're a great team that up and down the year, but, they're preseason top 5, and, they earn their right to the tournament, and they're a really good team. We're ready to go.
Cormac?
Yeah, 2, like you said, historic programs, obviously very well known in college basketball, especially over the last 25 years. So you can't ask for anything better in March Madness to go up and play against great teams, great programs, and come away with a great win.
To our right.
Brett Friedlander, SaturdayRoad.com. I'd like both players to address this. How much is toughness going to play into tomorrow's game, and how much do you two factor into that?
Yeah, I think it starts and ends with toughness for us. That's something we've prided ourselves on all year, is living in the trenches, being tough, playing gritty, doing the dirty work, doing the little things. That's when we're at our best, and that's what fuels us. And so tomorrow's no different. We got to bring the toughness, we got to bring the edge, bring the fight. And Michigan State's a tough team, and the Big Ten's a tough conference, but we're a tough team, and we've shown that all year, and that's really what gets us going.
100% to add on what he said. We play a small ball where there's a lot of small lineups, people kind of playing down their position, and a lot of teams will come in with the mentality of trying to bully us, and we feel like a lot of teams have done that throughout the year. They thought that was the scouting report or whatever, and I feel like we've always stepped up and for the challenge, and I think we're ready to go tomorrow too.
Back of the room.
Michael Coe, WCHL and ChapelBoro.com. This is for both Harrison and Cormac. Elliott said he played terrible yesterday against Wagner. What have you guys said to him to just keep his spirits up as he prepares to face a really good backcourt in Michigan State?
Elliott, he's a freshman, so he was a 5-star freshman coming out. He reclassed up, so he should still be in high school right now. So for him to be doing what he's doing, point guard on the #1 team in the country is pretty amazing in itself. And as a freshman, you have up and downs. There'll be games where you play good, games where you play bad. And for him as a great player, there's not much you really need to say to him because he knows he played bad. He knows what he needs to do. He knows what needs to be done as the rest of us.
Yeah, Elliott, I've said this all year, Elliott is an incredibly mature freshman. People always like to attribute guys making freshman mistakes and whatnot. One thing Elliott doesn't do is he's not a freshman level teammate. He's an incredible teammate. His maturity is far beyond his grade or his class. And that's something that he's shown all season, is his ability to be a great teammate, continue to bounce back from, tough games, tough performances. And so we have no doubt, not a single doubt, that he's going to continue to make incredibly big plays for us on Saturday and down the stretch for us, because that's who he is. He's a great player. He's a great teammate. And so we've got all the faith in the world in him. We know how good he is. We know how much we need him and how much this team values what he brings. And so can't say enough good things about Elliott. And we've got not a doubt in our mind that he's going to come ready to play, because that's who he is.
Middle of the room.
Adam Smith with Inside Carolina. Hey, guys. For both of you, just wondering, as you closed the book on Wagner last night, what sort of the overall assessment of how you guys played was, and how that matches up with maybe what you think about you need to improve on as you keep trying to advance in this tournament?
Yeah, I think basketball's a game of up and downs, and there's always things to learn from any game you play. Obviously, being a first-round game, these games can get a little tricky at times. The teams you play are unique. They're from far different conferences that, you have a short window to prepare for. And so, look, Wagner's a good team. They're a conference champion. They play a unique style. And so I think the part of the game last night took a little bit of adjusting to how they were playing. I think us just settling in, kind of finding our rhythm. There's a lot of things we can improve on. I think taking care of the ball, we were a little sloppy with it. I think our pressure was a little, low at times. So there's obviously things you can learn from and grow from every single game. But, the big takeaway is that we were able to find our groove, our rhythm. We won the game by 28 points. We played well down the stretch, and we're a hungry team. And we know what it takes to kind of move forward in this tournament, and the level just raises every round you go to. And so obviously with Michigan State coming up tomorrow, that's a challenge and an exciting opponent for us to go and play against. So we're excited for that. We, are obviously, we wanted to win the game on Thursday, and we did that, and now we're moving on to Saturday.
Yeah, I thought Cormac, that was a pretty long answer, but I think he answered. He spoke for the both of us.
Back row.
Blake Froling, Spartan Media Network. Cormac, for you, you played Michigan State last year at Notre Dame and had a big game. What do you remember from that matchup last year, and how different do these Spartans look compared to last year?
Yeah, I mean, they bring back a lot of the guys they had on that team last year. I think, at least 4 or 5 of the guys who played major minutes in that team. So a lot of similar guys, but, year to year things change, and I think obviously they're a little bit different this year. And we're different. I'm with a different group, and this is, I couldn't imagine a better team to go and take on Michigan State than the team we're with, we've brought to Charlotte here. And we've been saying it all year, like our chemistry, our togetherness, I think that's one of our biggest strengths. And so leaning on these guys going into tomorrow and just going out and competing and having fun.
To our right.
Hey guys, David Hale with ESPN. In the game last night, you had RJ and Armando both moved up in the all-time scoring record list for North Carolina, which they noted was a cool thing to do at the same time. I'm kind of curious, though, as much as they've had great individual careers, do you see them as sort of the sum is greater than the individual parts, and the way that they work together, they manage, lead the team together, and sort of the back and forth that the two of them have together as a group?
Harrison. 100%. I mean, they've been here for 4 and 5 years respectively. They've been in the Final Four on the run. They've also seen the bad side of it of not making the tournament last year, and then just having their leadership. As me personally, I never played in the NCAA tournament before, and hearing their thoughts, their voice of just kind of treating it as another game and not trying to put too much pressure on yourself, because knowing that if you lose, you're out. I mean, now is the time where one bad game, one bad loss, one bad defense possession can get you eliminated and into your whole season. And for them being there for us, it's such a calming aspect. Having RJ, he can score whenever he wants, and having Armando down low, he demands a double team. I mean, just having both those on the team makes everything easy for me.
Want to try for me?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with Harrison. I think I speak for the both of us in saying, those two guys were a big part of the reason why we came to Carolina. Is we know how talented they are. We know how historic they've been for this program. And playing alongside great players is what every great player should want to do. And it makes our jobs a lot easier. It's a luxury to have. And so we're fortunate to have two guys who are as accomplished as they are. And, we collectively are looking to help them out. They help us out. And that's something that we kind of thrive on, is those two, and, how they lead us, how they impact the game on the court and off the court.
Again, middle of the room.
Harrison, wanted to ask you, since Cormac was so good with the other question, for you, you've talked about not playing an NCAA tournament before, but also not maybe being hyper focused on watching every game and things like that. Since you are in it now, do you find yourself soaking it in more, trying to check other games, other scores, or just being do you find yourself sort of really getting into the experience more of it?
I mean, I think definitely I watched more games when I was not in it, just because I had more time to think about other teams and not really worried about who we're playing or the scouting report we're doing. But, you know, for us this year, we've watched so much film. Right now we're watching so much film at Michigan State, whether it was Wagner, now it's Michigan State, you know, just watching film of them. And me watching extra film on Synergy, that it's kind of hard to watch other games. It's kind of get burned out watching all that basketball. But, you know, for me, I'm just happy to be here and just trying to soak in the moment and have a great time.
Back to the room.
This one's for Cormac. You played in the NCAA tournament before, obviously. Coach Davis, earlier this week, he said he broke down the NCAA tournament into sort of 3 separate tournaments. The Charlotte tournament, if you win, you go to LA. If you win, you go to Arizona. Was that sort of a brand new way of thinking about this event for you as someone who's played in it before?
Yeah, absolutely. I really like that framework. I thought that was really helpful for us. You know, everyone likes to talk about 6 games to win a championship, but 6 games is a lot of games. And I think for us to take it piece by piece, focus on Charlotte first and the task at hand. You know, we're halfway done with the Charlotte tournament, and so being able to focus one at a time, I think is very important, to not get ahead of yourself and not get caught up in the long road to Phoenix, but, you know, just staying focused on what you can control and preparing to, you know, win the games that you come to play.
Hubert, Tom Shanahan from Spartan Mag. Kevin Guskowitz is now at Michigan State, and I understand that you knew him pretty well and had a lot of respect for him. Just wanted to get your thoughts on him wearing the other colors for this game.
Well, you know, my relationship with him and his family, just a terrific person. The time that he served as chancellor at North Carolina was absolutely fantastic, but he's one of my friends, and I wish him the best at Michigan State, and Michigan State is lucky to have him.
Hubert, Scott Fowler from the Charlotte Observer. What do you tell Elliot Cadeau when he has a game when he doesn't perform as well as he wanted to on Thursday? And could you just talk in general about the guard matchups in this game Saturday?
Well, I mean, the guard matchups is going to be very key in determining, you know, the outcome of the game. You know, Elliot, his ability to be able to push the ball and create offense even before we start our offense has just been huge for us this year. I mean, he's really fast, and he's even faster with the ball. His ability to pass, I have loved his progression in terms of from a defensive standpoint, diving on loose balls, and that type of energy and effort, and is going to be needed against a really good Michigan State team tomorrow.
To our right.
Hubert, Nick Carboni from NBC Charlotte. Just wondering from a coach's perspective, with Jalen and Harrison and Cormac coming into the program, what have they done to help make it work so well, but also what have your veteran players like Armando and RJ done as well to make it work?
Well, you know, for whatever reason, this group from the start has just enjoyed being together. They just have, and they have wanted to be a team. And you know, it started off the court. There's, you know, their personalities just work really well together, and it's translated out there on the floor. There's a genuine, you know, each one of the guys genuinely wants their teammate to be successful. They understand the importance of each individual teammate and what it helps and what it brings for our team to be the best that it can be. And you know, having guys come in for the first year like Pax and Cormac and Harrison and them just diving into this team, this program, this university, and for guys like Armando and RJ that have been here to welcome them in and to be able to bring them in from the standpoint where it feels like Pax and Harrison and Jay Witt and all these guys have been here for more than just 1 year. You know, the chemistry with this group is real, and it's been nice to be around.
Back left.
Trayvon Miles, ABC 11 in Raleigh. Hubert, I saw you guys practice at Johnson C. Smith the other day. Can you talk about some of your emotions walking into that place? And Armando and RJ just said they knew how special it was considering what kind of history your family has there.
Yeah, it's really cool. Johnson C. Smith is where my parents went to school, so that's where they met, and they decided to get married and have Hubert Jr. And so, To be able to go back there and to practice at John C. Smith was a really big deal. I got to film, some of our practice and send it to my dad. And just to think that, my dad went to South Mecklenburg, so, he was, grew up in Pineville, North Carolina. He was the first group of high school students to integrate public schools in the Mecklenburg County. Went to Johnson C. Smith, and then now his son is the head coach at University of North Carolina, and they're practicing there before the NCAA Tournament. So it's just a pretty cool deal, and I'm glad we were able to experience that.
To our right.
Aaron Beard with the AP. Here you were talking yesterday about really having things on your mind about wanting things to go well for Armando in his last run. I'm kind of curious, you had a 4-year career where Dean Smith was your coach, teammates that came back every year. Can you even imagine what his career has been like from pandemic to a Hall of Fame coach retiring to NIL? I mean, from just a scope of his career has just been, I can't think of something like it.
Yeah, he has had a lot. I appreciate you saying that because, during his time in college, there's a number of things in college basketball that have changed. You talked about the NIL, the transfer portal, the extra COVID year, the involvement of agents, and coming off of a pandemic and changing coaches. And so he's had to, we always talk about how do you react and how do you respond specifically, to changes. And he's had to deal with that from a number of different directions. And so for him to be able to embrace that and then be able to have the career that he has had, I think that's something to be celebrated for. And his commitment to this university and this program for 5 years, that's something that's new as well. And I'm glad he's a Tar Heel, and he always will be. And it's been an honor and a privilege to be one of his coaches for the last 5 years.
Back left.
Michael Coe, WCHL, chapelboro.com. Hubert, with the retirements of a bunch of legendary college basketball coaches in the last few years, Coach Williams, Coach Boeheim, Coach K, Jay Wright, Coach Izzo is kind of the elder statesman, if you want to put it that way, of college basketball, or one of them. How cool is it for you as a coach to go up against someone like that for the first time?
Well, it's just really cool to be a part of college basketball and specifically be a coach alongside Coach Izzo. I've, for the longest of time, have been one of his biggest fans. As a player, I would have loved to play for him because not only his commitment to his players on the court, but his commitment to his players off the court, into his university and the community. I think he teaches life through basketball, and that's something that I experienced at Carolina through Coach Smith. And when I see Coach Izzo, it reminds me a lot of Coach Smith. And so it really is, I say this a lot, but it's an honor and a privilege to be on the sideline alongside with him, and for both of our teams to have an opportunity and a chance to compete tomorrow is a really big deal.
Far right aisle.
Hey, Hubert. Brendan Marks from The Athletic. A couple of players were mentioning how you told them that old Coach Smithism about win the Charlotte Invitational, you get invited to the next Invitational, you get invited to the next one. But you didn't mention that 2 years ago. They said, I was just wondering, you mentioned...
I did.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I did.
Okay.
They forgot.
How have you... That's obviously one of many things you've taken from Coach Smith and Coach Guthridge and Coach Williams. How does that filter of you doing your job through the lens of them? How has that continued to evolve the further you've gotten into your tenure?
Well, that's who I am. Even from the press conference, when I first accepted a job, I said the foundation of this program, I'm not veering from that. And I'm not veering from it because it's been successful, but more importantly, I've lived it and I believe in it. And I've said that along that path, along that foundation, it's important for me to walk that path, but to do it with my personality in my own shoes. And that's what I've tried to do in the last 3 years. But that's something Coach Smith did and Coach Williams, and the guys forgot. I did do it the first year, and I said, let's win the Fort Worth tournament. And then I said, let's win the Philadelphia tournament. And so that's not something that I just thought about this year. This is something that I've done since the time that I was here at Carolina as a player.
To our left.
Brendan Lunga, the Daily Tar Heel. With Pax playing against his dad tomorrow, I'm wondering if you've had any conversations with him about that and what you think that dynamic will be like tomorrow for Paxton.
Well, I mean, they've done it before. I mean, when he was at Brown, they played at Michigan State, and so this isn't a situation where he hasn't been in this situation before, and so the Wojcik family is. You can't ask for a more connected, better family to be around. Even on the off days that Coach Wojcik could, he would come and fly in to come see Pax play, whether it was on the road or at home, and so. Being able to go out there and compete against each other, it's something that they've done before, and I don't think it's an issue. It's Michigan State versus North Carolina, and it'll be a good game tomorrow.
Back to our right.
Hubert, I know you already spoke about JCSU. While you were speaking about the program, Coach Joyner announced his retirement. I don't know if you have how much experience you have with him. I know you spoke to him the other day at the gym.
Yeah, he's just a long-time legendary coach at Johnson C. Smith, and very sad to hear that he's not going to continue to be head coach. The things that I've loved about him as head coach is the same things that I've mentioned about Coach Smith, about Coach Izzo, about teaching life through basketball, and his service not only to his basketball program, but to Johnson C. Smith and to the Charlotte community, and for the CIAA has been something that has been remarkable. And so you talk about, legendary coaches that have retired. He is a legendary coach that's leaving the game.
Again to our right.
Hey, Hubert. Sorry, follow up. Armando was mentioning how with you like to give the players a scouting report maybe 2 or 3 days ahead of time if possible. How did you get to your philosophy in scouting? Because you've mentioned a few times Coach Smith would do, 1 dot for a good shooter, 2 dots for a good
scouting. Yeah.
Right. So how has your philosophy evolved from that?
I really believe it's come from the NBA. My time in the NBA, scouting is just huge, and it's even, I tell the guys, the scouting that we do is probably 5% of what is done in the NBA, and we play even more games. I mean, just the attention to detail in terms of scouting in the NBA is ridiculous, to the percentages of when a guy dribbles to his right and when he gets up off the bench and he hops on his left foot. This is the play that they're running, and so scouting report is not a cheat sheet. It's to give them and to guide them in their anticipation to be able to be the best out there on the floor, and I think it's important for the guys to do that. A huge reason also is not only for us, because I always say this to the guys, I'll never ask you to do anything that's a benefit for us, that's not a benefit for you personally. Giving these guys scouting reports and preparing them here allows them, or puts them in a position when they go to the next level, they've done this before. And so it's in preparation for them moving forward as well, so that when they go to the next level, they know what they're doing. And that's really important to me.